So share everything, right?
Yeah, no.
Welcome to A Cup of Tea with Bree, where I get to know some of the country's most amazing parents, incredible business people, and of course, inspiring characters. And today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing my good friend, Kate Christie, who is a best-selling author and an expert in smart time management. Her business, Time Stylist, thrives to help people gain control of their time management in all aspects of their life, whether it be career or family related. So how you going, Kate?
I'm going really well. Thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting.
A cup of tea, la-di-da, in pretty cups.
Have to be a lady.
Exactly. We're always ladylike. Come on. So tell me, let's go right back to the beginning. Tell me about your childhood. Where were you born?
Oh, okay. I was born in Mitcham in Victoria.
Nice.
So back then, very, very country. Mm-hmm. My parents, however, were from Williamstown, and they'd moved out for a year or two when they got married, just because they couldn't afford to live in Williamstown back in the day. And we moved back there when I was about 3. And very working class, the western suburbs, wrong side of the bridge sort of thing. And they bought the family house for £18,000.
Wow.
And since then, Williamstown has become very, very gentrified. And so, like a lot of second, third, fourth generation Williamstownites, my parents are sitting on a gold mine now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so very asset rich. They were both teachers, so very poor working class, if you like. They worked hard, but I think they're sitting on, a $5 or $6 million block of land now or something.
Wow.
I know.
How awesome is
so
that?
All good things come around, I think.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen in my family though, but mine are still living in those sorts of areas that haven't.
They haven't gentrified just yet. Well, they might.
So what did you want to be when you grew up then?
Look, it's funny. When I was really little, I wanted to be a journalist.
Nice.
And,
I can give you a job if you want.
And I say funny because I really pursued it very hard. I wrote a lot through school. I was involved in the school magazine and went to the idea was I was going to do journalism, and I went and had a cup of coffee with a man who, when I was in year 12, who worked for The Age in Melbourne. And I said to him, what do I do? How do I become you? And he said, go away and get the best degree you possibly can. So don't necessarily just do a journalism degree, do what the best you can get into. And once you finish that, come back and see us. And so I followed his advice, and I did well at school, and I ended up getting marks to do law. So I thought, I'll do law because that's the best degree I can do, and then I'll go back to journalism. And I never went back because I think that once I'd done the 4 years of study, I thought, well, now I should get qualified. I've done those 4 years, so I should at least do my articles year. And then I fell into it for a long time. And then full circle, though, I came back to writing and wrote my first book when I was 44.
Wow. Mm. So you were a lawyer in what sort of law did you practice?
I practiced in employment law.
Okay.
So equal opportunity, discrimination, industrial disputes, contracts. Awful. Incredibly boring. I hated it. But the law degree was really useful. It teaches you a way of thinking. It teaches you to be very analytical, and I think it teaches you to gives you that skill of being able to read and absorb a whole heap of gumph and just narrow it down to the specifics. And so it definitely was a useful period of learning, but I did not love being a lawyer.
So when did you start your business then? You were in law for how long?
So I worked in law right until after I had my second baby. So I was 31. And then I went back to work, but into a non-legal role. And then, so I worked in law for 10 years or 8 years, and then in a corporate role. and worked in an operational sort of corporate role for another 8-9 years, and then I left and started my business.
Wow, and you've got 3 children?
3 children. And
what made you start your business?
Look, I was one of a generation of women who was told I could have it all. And I genuinely believed that. And it worked really well for me through school and uni and into the start of my career, where hard work plus a little bit of talent and a lot of drive meant you could have what you wanted. And it all sort of started to come apart when I had my first child. And I had 3 babies in 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was entirely my own fault. And
you know what the cause of that was?
Yeah, I know. You think after the second one, at least I would have worked it out. But the juggle then just became so difficult for me to sustain. And this concept of having it all was just a joke to me at that point in time. I just thought, this is impossible. How can I do this? How can I have this amazing career and be the amazing mum that I wanted to be, let alone all the other roles that you play? And I guess I got myself into a position where I felt that I had no choice but to be a great mum or have a great career. And so I left my career because obviously I didn't want to leave my children. And but that was a mistake, in as much as I had really just got myself into a place where I wasn't managing my time well. And if I knew then what I knew now, I would have been able to continue on and have great success in all components of my life. But having said that, it's one of those sliding door moments, and it's given me my passion, which now as in my business is really about time and helping people invest their time differently, so that no one's ever forced to make those hard decisions where they feel that they have to choose between 2 different things that they love. If you manage your time differently and you invest your time well, you can have all the bits you love.
I love it, because you have got 3 books. Okay, so tell me about the first one. The first one is all on time management.
Yes. So they're all on time management. The first one is called Me Time, The Professional Woman's Guide to Finding 30 Guilt-Free Hours a Month. And so that's very much targeted at working mums and how to change their time management habits on the home front more so that they can get 30 hours back into their life.
So do you believe now that women can have it all? Because you went through a period that you didn't think that they could.
Yeah, look, my current thinking on this is that you don't need it all. You should just be very, very specific about the bits you definitely want, your non-negotiables, and chase after those. And you can have all of those. The rest of it's just white noise. And I think perhaps back in the day when I was thinking you can't have it all, I was just not being specific enough about what I wanted. And I was just really going after too much.
Yes.
So I think if you can narrow it in and just chase after the bits that are really the most critically important. See, for mine now, I talk to my customers or clients a lot around this. It's very, very important for you to hone in on your values and your core beliefs. And once you have absolute clarity over where you want to be spending your time and what's most important to you, it makes it very easy for you to say yes and no to everything that comes your way. And so for mine, my 2 most important things are my kids and my business. And so if things fall within those remits, it's very easy for me to say yes. If things or requests that come my way fall outside of my kids or my business, then it's really easy for me to say no.
It makes it seem so easy, because us women, we so much don't like the word no. We always like to be yes all of the time. I mean, those men like that as well, but it's so true. If you bring it back to those 2 things, your core beliefs and your values, it is much easier.
It makes it just it took me a long time, and it sounds easy, but it is a lot of work to really narrow down what is most important to me. But I think once you identify those 2, 3 or 4 things that are absolutely non-negotiable, it just makes your life so much easier. So it is a piece of work, but it's a piece of work I'd really recommend because it just narrows your choices.
So tell me, what is something that most people don't know about you?
Oh dear. Look, I think there's probably a lot of things. I'm a really private person, and
so share everything, right?
Yeah, no. I'm one of those people who, when I have a conversation, people start asking how I am, I'll give them a really flippant answer and flip it around and then talk about the other person the whole time, which is a really good skill to have.
It is, but not right now when I'm interviewing you, so I'll put you on the spot. Yeah.
So I don't share a lot. A classic example is on my Facebook page, it's all around my business. My Instagram account, it's all around my business. LinkedIn, of course, is all about business, but you'll never see pictures of my kids or not often pictures of me in a non-work sense in those sort of social platforms. It's just, it's a bit of an anathema to me. So something that people don't know about me, I like to wear matching bras and undies if possible. That's an obscure one.
I love it. And you don't like to share personal information very often.
Yeah, no,
so we've had a breakthrough, people.
I know.
Kate Christie just shared something personal.
And I went really over the top and really overly personal.
I love it. I have to have matching pillow slips. You know when someone puts the wrong pillow slip?
Oh, yes.
It's like the worst.
Oh, 100%.
Seriously, there's like 2 sets. That's all the same.
Yeah, no, they can't. I hear you, and I'm with you.
So tell me, what has been one of your greatest personal achievements?
Look, I think 2. Writing my first book, definitely. It was something I'd always wanted to do, and it's definitely one of my proudest achievements because not a lot of people write books.
No.
You know, it takes a long time and there's a lot of discipline in it, but then there's also that whole concept of putting yourself out there.
And what you think out there.
That's right. And potentially being picked apart or exposing a weakness potentially. So very, very proud of that. The other thing I'm proud of is I'm a really, really good mum. You know, I love my kids to death, and as all mums do, but I make them an absolute priority, and I make sure that I am very focused when I'm with them and very present, and I've built my whole kind of business and working life around my time with the kids. So, yeah, I'd say those 2.
I love it. So what about professional achievements then? You said the book, but I'm sure there's been other ones because you've spoken, a little bit around the world now.
Yes. So recently spoke in London.
Wow.
And so that was definitely a professional highlight. Spoke at a conference in London called Fueling Ambition. And there was probably about 500 people in the audience and an incredible lineup of speakers. And it was very exciting to be invited into that forum. But also, I felt that I really held my own, and I had a lot of positive, really terrific feedback afterwards. And so that was very validating and really, that was definitely a professional high. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So if you could have dinner with 3 people, whether they're dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Look, I would choose I'd actually choose 4, so I'd cheat slightly.
Okay. I'll let you do that.
Thank you. And I would choose my grandparents.
Nice.
So my mum's father died before I was born, so obviously I never met him. He served in World War I as a runner in Gallipoli in the trenches, and he was only 14 years old when he enlisted. And Mum has a photograph of him on the wall at home with his medals. So it's one of those really lovely sort of soldier photographs with a commendation from King George, a handwritten note, and the medals, and this photo of him the day he enlisted. And how anybody in their right mind could have thought that young baby was an 18-year-old man just beggars belief. He looks like one of my kids looked when they were 12 or 13. He was a 14-year-old boy, and he got through the war, and but he passed away when my mum was 19. So I'd love to have dinner with him. His wife, she died when I was about 5. So again, I'd love to have dinner with her and just to hear some of their stories. And then my dad's parents. So my nana died when I was 8. And so I only had my papa. Out of all my grandparents, everyone else, they'd all died when I was really young or before I was born. My papa didn't die until I was 25, and I was really close to him. And I actually had a dream the other night, and I hadn't dreamt about him for years, but I had a dream, and he was in the dream, and he'd sort of come through and sort of said, I just came to say hi and how are you? And I woke up feeling so happy. It was so beautiful to see him and to see him very clearly. And so that's who I would have dinner with.
Oh, it's beautiful. So what about the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Okay, this one is easy. I had a brilliant mentor when I was working at Telstra. It was back when the Sol Trujillo and the 3 amigos came over from America to run the company, and Greg Wynn was Sol's right-hand man, and I had the pleasure of being able to work with him and eventually working with him very closely on a number of projects. And he was a fantastic businessman and a great mentor, and he still is a friend. And the best piece of advice I got was from him, and it was always lead with the data. Data is king. No one can dispute the data. So if you want to put a pitch forward, if you're going for a business proposal, if you're trying to get a product up, if you want a new service, if you're trying to launch a new component of the magazine, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need the data. And once you've got the data and you've validated it, no one can argue with you. The data doesn't lie. Data is king. And it's definitely stayed with me, and time and again I've proved him right. Data is king. And I say it to all of my clients, always go in with the data. What's the data? Don't go in without the data set, because no one can argue with the data.
I love it. So final question from me. Obviously, you're a mum, you're running a business, and, being a parentpreneur, raising a business and a family at the same time, it's tough. So what's your number one piece of advice in that realm?
Family's a team sport. So as young as possible, get your kids on board. This isn't a hotel. I'm not the maid. We're all in this together. So we'll divvy up the jobs. I'll take these ones. Which ones do you guys want? And from as young as they possibly are, it's about instilling those habits in your kids that and that understanding that family's a team sport. We all pitch in. Go take the bins out. And it's like, well, no, I don't want to. Well, okay, I'm cooking, so I'll swap. I'll do the bins and you can cook.
Yes.
Oh, no, I'll do the bins.
Yeah.
Okay, good choice. But it's about that consistency.
Yeah.
And start them young. It's when they're really little, it's a game, and they want to just hang with you. And plus, they're really, really compliant. When they're little, you're not going, you don't expect your 5-year-old to do an amazing job with the vacuum. You can fix it up later.
Yeah.
But the point is that when they get to 15, they're not going to argue when you ask them to vacuum because they've always done it. And it's about raising independent individuals who can look after themselves. And, my daughters are going to grow up and want to marry your sons. So let's make sure they all know how to run a house.
Yeah, not one or the other.
Absolutely.
I love it. And what about those parents out there, that are struggling a little bit at the moment with the whole work-life blend? What's your number one hack there, being a time expert?
Yeah, look, I think work-life balance is a myth. My number one hack would be stop chasing something that doesn't exist.
Yes.
It's a fairy tale. It's like the whole, telling our daughters that the white knight's going to come up on the horse. The white knight, the knight, that's a chocolate bar. The knight is going to come up on the white horse. It doesn't happen. And so work-life balance, it's just another one of those fairy tales. You work, it's part of your life. And in your life is full of a cacophony of all sorts of different elements. And embrace them all, enjoy them all, and I guess give yourself permission to spend your time where it's most needed at any given time. And sometimes that's on the tools to the exclusion of your family. Sometimes it's with your family to the exclusion of or the suffering of your business or work. But you can't be everything. You can't do everything. And I think if you just prioritize based on where you're most needed, that is going to help you, I guess, integrate all the elements of your life.
And feel less guilty too.
Oh, God, guilt. You know, is there a bigger waste of time?
Isn't it?
It's crazy. And the two biggest wastes of time I see, I guess, these days are guilt, that whole concept, particularly of mother's guilt. I mean, let it go, guys. You know,
Go Elsa.
No, yeah.
Let it go.
No one's going to give you a gold star for feeling this way.
Except for yourself, which is kind of lame.
Yeah, go pat yourself on the back later. I mean, it's ridiculous. So mother's guilt is a waste of your time. The second one is imposter syndrome. You know, that whole concept of thinking someone's going to tap me on the shoulder any moment now and you know, let it go. Another Elsa moment. It's you no one handed you your success. No one gave you and gift wrapped you this business. No one sent it to you on a platter. You've worked really, really hard to get where you are and to do what you're doing and own it and enjoy it and stop thinking that you're about to be caught out because you're not.
Well, thank you, Kate, so much for having a cup of tea with me today. Such great advice for all of our viewers. And it was great to get to know you a little bit more as well and hear about your life. But if you would like to see more of our episodes, and make sure you do subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out of a new episode of A Cup of Tea with Bree, and we'll see you next time.